I have spent so many years being the only woman in the room, and that's a tough position to be in. If you're going to be brave, you're going to be bold, you're going to drive change, you can't do that on your own, you have to take people with you.
We are in conversation with somebody who's been a driver of change in women's sport for some time now. She is the General Manager of Marketing and Communications at the ICC. Claire Furlong joins us. What made you want to pursue a career in sport?
I was always one of those average athletes. I was never a good enough athlete to compete at the international level. In those days, going back more than 20 years, there wasn't the sporting ecosystem that there is now. So sport didn't seem like an option for a job for me. But I did go and make tea at the local BBC radio station on a Saturday afternoon for their sports show. And all of a sudden I realised there was a potential job. The door kind of opened for me and there was a potential job and I could work in sport without being any good at sport. And that was then what I pursued.
Through the context of your role at the ICC, what does leadership mean to you?
I think it's about inspiring a team to deliver results. For me personally, it's about being authentic and true to my values, which is why gender equity, or equity more broadly, is so important to me. It's also about being brave, putting your head above the parapet sometimes. If you really want to drive change, you can't just stay with the status quo. So you do have to be brave, but in being brave, you also have to take people on a journey with you. If you're going to be brave, you're going to be bold, you're going to drive change, you can't do that on your own. You have to take people with you.
Through the course of your professional journey, has there been anything that you've seen or anything that you've heard that has caused you to be an agent of change to drive gender equality?
I have spent so many years being the only woman in the room, and that's a tough position to be in. For a long time, I've supported young women on their journey into sport, so I wouldn't be alone. It was that sense of loneliness and isolation that really made me committed to it.
And is there something that makes you think, when you look around, to think that, yeah, we're getting there in women's sport particularly?
It's the way we're investing in women's sport now. It's not just, I think even as short a time ago as maybe 5 years ago, it was a tick box exercise. It was because a federation or an international governing body had to do it. Whereas now there is a business reason to do it, because fans want to see women's sport. So it's that investment, and then we market the game properly. We host events like the Women's Cricket World Cup here, and fans want to come along. They want to pay to watch these, world-class cricketers play the sport that they love. So it's the level of investment that we see now, and the stature of the women's game.
You've been personally instrumental in bringing about a change in the ICC playing conditions using the word batter and effectively killing the word batsman. How important are changes like these?
The power of words cannot be underestimated. I think for me, it's really important that language is inclusive. So if a young girl's watching and we're talking about a batsman, they can't relate to that. They can relate to a batter. They can be a batter. They can't be a batsman. So we want to present a sport that is gender equitable and inclusive, and batter does that. We don't say fieldsman. At the turn of the century we did say fieldsman, but we say fielder. We don't say bowlsman, we say bowler. So why were we saying batsman? So it's all part of making the game genuinely inclusive, so young girls can look at that and think, yeah, I can be a batter.
Yeah. So ICC has recently launched the 100% cricket program. What are some of the goals and aims of this program?
So 100% Cricket is a celebration of the women's game. It's about providing a platform to build heroes and engage fans in the women's game. And we have a unique opportunity over the next 12 months, starting with this event, the Women's Cricket World Cup. Then we go to Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games, and it's the first time women's cricket has ever been included in the Commonwealth Games. Then in January we host our inaugural ICC Under-19 T20 World Cup. And then we go to the Women's T20 World Cup in South Africa in March. So we have a 12-month period with 4 amazing women's cricket events. So for us, that seemed like a great opportunity to have a year-long celebration of the women's game and drive the conversation beyond those 4 events and celebrate the players, build the heroes, market the game and increase the visibility of the women's game over that 12-month period.
And what are some of the other initiatives that the ICC is looking into to promote and support the growth of women's cricket?
Yeah, so it's one of our identified strategic priorities at the ICC, and I think there's a combination of on-field and off-field stuff that we're looking at doing. So on the field, it's about the FTP calendar, it's about ICC events, and it's about marketing of the game and promotion of the game and building those heroes. Then it's about women in cricket more broadly and how we're supporting the the development of women in cricket. We're also running a leadership programme, 100% Cricket Future Leaders, and that is a mentorship programme for future leaders in the sport. And it's designed to address the lack of female leaders in our sport by equipping them, creating a community and giving them opportunities.
Claire, what makes you proud, or what has made you proud about holding such an influential role at the ICC?
Just the ability to influence and drive change and take people on that journey. I think my proudest moment to date, most people would expect, I think, me to say 86,174 people packed into the MCG for the Women's T20 World Cup in Australia 2 years ago, but actually my proudest moment was at Lord's for the Women's Cricket World Cup in 2017, where we sold out Lord's before the semi-finals had even taken place. And we had queues from the gates right up to the tube. I think it was a game-changing moment because people thought, okay, it made people to sit up and take notice of women's cricket for the first time, I think, and realise that it was a genuine opportunity to engage more fans around the world. So for me, that's the moment where I think a lot of people who had previously not taken any notice of women's cricket or not been interested or paid lip service actually sat up and took notice.
England have won the World Cup.
If in 10 years, when we do interview you, what would you like to say that you're glad has finally happened?
Pay parity for men and women, but I also think with that comes financial sustainability and the women's game being able to stand on its own 2 feet financially. And we're already starting to see the shift. We're looking at unbundling women's rights, we're looking at women-only partners, so I can see that happening in 10 years, and if it's a financially vibrant, sustainable sport, that will then be reflected from a pay equity point of view.